The last thing my grandmother ever said to me was, "Sometimes the greatest betrayals come wrapped in the prettiest packages, dear." I didn't understand what she meant then, but I do now. My name is Claire, and last week I watched my entire family steal my inheritance right out from under me. I stood in Rosewood Manor, the home my grandmother Eleanor had promised me since I was 12, clutching the envelope she had left me. The lawyer had just finished reading her will, and already my mother's perfectly manicured hand was reaching for the house keys. "Honey, you have to understand," my mother, Victoria, cooed, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "The house needs so many repairs. We're just trying to protect you from that burden." "Protect me?" I stared at her, then at my father, Charles, who refused to meet my gaze. By selling it behind my back? My brother Lucas leaned lazily against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Come on, Claire. You couldn't afford the property taxes anyway." The familiar scent of Eleanor's lavender sachets still lingered in the air. Just 3 weeks ago, we had sat in the glass parlor drinking tea while she told me stories about her youth. Now, my family stood here, dividing up her life like vultures. "You can't do this," I said, my voice shaking. "Grandma left the house to me. It's in the will." "Actually," my sister Sophie chimed in, smoothing down her designer blouse, "Mom and Dad have power of attorney. The sale has already gone through." The blood drained from my face. "What sale?" "We found a lovely buyer," my mother said with a saccharine smile. "He's offering well above market value. The papers are already signed." My fingers tightened around the envelope. I hadn't opened it yet. It had arrived by courier that morning with strict instructions not to open it until after the will reading. "Get out." My voice was barely above a whisper. "Don't be dramatic, Claire." My father finally spoke, his tone patronizing. "We're family." I let out a bitter laugh. "Family doesn't do this. Get out of my grandmother's house. Now." One by one, they filed out. My mother paused at the door. "We're meeting the buyer tomorrow to hand over the keys. You should come. Make peace with it." When I was finally alone, I sank into Eleanor's favorite armchair and opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a small key. "My dearest Claire, if you're reading this, they've done exactly what I feared they would. But don't worry. I've left you something they don't know about. Something that will help you fight back. Check behind the loose brick in the willow garden wall, the one with the heart carved into it." My heart pounded. Eleanor always said that the best revenge was served with patience and wisdom. Looks like she had left me the recipe. And in Wessitins. I placed Eleanor's documents on Danielle Carter's desk. The papers I had found behind that loose garden brick had kept me up all night. "Well," Danielle said, adjusting her glasses, "your grandmother was certainly thorough." "Can they really sell the house without my consent?" I asked. Danielle smiled, a sharp, knowing smile that made me sit up straighter. "That's the interesting part," she said. "Your grandmother added a specific clause to her will 6 months ago. The house cannot be sold without your explicit written permission, regardless of any power of attorney." My stomach twisted. "But my mother said the sale already went through." Danielle leaned forward. "Which means—" She tapped a document on her desk. "Someone forged your signature." I gripped the armrests of my chair. "What?" Danielle slid a document toward me. "This is supposedly your signature on the sale agreement, but look at the date." I scanned the page. My breath caught in my throat. "I was in Chicago that day. For work, I have flight receipts." "Keep them handy. We're going to need them." Danielle started typing rapidly on her computer. "The buyer, Thomas Bennett, is coming in today. He should know his purchase isn't valid." "You really think we can stop this?" I asked. Danielle met my gaze. "Stop it? Claire, we can reverse it, and whoever forged your signature could face serious consequences." My phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. "Mom's furious. You went to a lawyer? She says you're betraying the family." I showed Danielle the message. She shook her head. Interesting how they define betrayal. A knock interrupted us. Thomas Bennett walked in, looking more nervous than a legitimate buyer should. Danielle gestured to a chair. "Mr. Bennett, please join us." "About the house," Thomas Bennett said, glancing at me. "Your mother assured me everything was in order." "My mother lied," I said flatly, "and I never signed those papers." His face paled. "What?" Danielle Carter slid the documents across her desk. "The sale requires Claire's consent. This signature, it's forged. She was in another state that day." Thomas ran a hand through his hair. "They told me you'd agreed, that you just couldn't be there for the signing. They told you wrong," I said firmly. "That house means everything to me. My grandmother—" "I know," he interrupted. "Your mother mentioned you were difficult about letting go, that you were too emotional about it." Something in his tone made me pause. "What else did they tell you?" He hesitated, then reached into his briefcase. "I think you should see these emails." He laid out printed emails across Danielle's desk. My stomach twisted as I scanned them. My grandmother's warning echoed in my head again. The greatest betrayals come wrapped in the prettiest packages. She'd known. She had known all along what they would try to do. The emails made me sick. Victoria had been shopping the house around to buyers for months, while Eleanor was still alive. "Your mother mentioned there might be some resistance," Thomas said, pointing to one particular message. "She said you were too attached to see the financial opportunity." Financial opportunity. I checked the email's date. 2 days after Eleanor's funeral. Danielle sorted through the papers. "Mr. Bennett, would you be willing to make a formal statement about these communications?" Thomas exhaled, then nodded. "Yes. I should have asked more questions when they insisted on rushing everything through. Something felt off." My phone buzzed again. Lucas calling. I declined it. "There's more," Thomas said quietly. "Your mother mentioned something about valuables in the house. Things your grandmother had hidden away. I remembered the key from Eleanor's letter." "Hidden where?" I asked. Thomas hesitated. "She wouldn't say exactly, just that they needed to secure the house quickly, before you had a chance to." "Before I had a chance to what?" Danielle gathered the emails into a folder. "This is excellent evidence of premeditation, Claire. We should—" The office door burst open. Victoria stood there, perfectly composed as always, with Sophie hovering behind her. "Claire, what do you think you're doing?" Her voice was steel wrapped in silk. I let out a cold laugh. "Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing." I held up the forged document. "Care to explain this?" She barely glanced at it. Instead, she turned to Thomas. "We had a deal based on fraud," he replied, standing up. "I'm withdrawing my offer." For the first time, my mother's composure cracked. "You can't do that. We've already allocated the funds." I crossed my arms. "You mean you've already spent money you don't have?" Sophie stepped forward hesitantly. "Claire, please. Mom and Dad need this. The business—" "What about the business?" I demanded. My mother shot Sophie a warning look. "That's enough." "You're making a terrible mistake, Claire," she continued. "That house is nothing but a burden." I took Eleanor's letter from my pocket. "Then why are you so desperate to sell it?" For the first time, real fear flickered in her eyes. "Whatever you think you know," she said carefully, "you don't understand the whole picture." "Then explain it to me," I challenged. "What's hidden in that house that's worth forging my signature for?" The silence stretched between us. Finally, my mother turned to leave but paused at the door. "Some secrets," she murmured, "should stay buried with the dead." As I stepped into the parking lot, Lucas cornered me. "You're making a huge mistake," he said, blocking my path. "Mom and Dad put everything they had into this deal." "Everything they had?" I shot back. "Or everything they stole?" His jaw tightened. "Listen to me. The family business is underwater. Dad made some bad investments." I yanked my arm free from his grasp. So that makes it okay to steal my inheritance? Your inheritance? He let out a bitter laugh. You were always her favorite. Every Sunday dinner, every holiday, it was always about precious Claire. That's not true. No, he scoffed. Then why did she leave you the house? Why did she spend... A car door slammed nearby. Sophie approached, her heels clicking against the pavement. They're meeting tonight, she said, not meeting my eyes. At the Crestwood Hotel, room 412. It's about the house. Lucas spun around. Sophie, shut up. She crossed her arms. No, I'm done lying. I studied her. Why are you telling me this? She hesitated, then sighed. Because I found something in Mom's office, documents about Eleanor's estate, and they don't match what was in the will. Lucas stepped toward her, his voice low and warning. You had no right to go through those papers. And you had no right to forge our sister's signature, she shot back. I turned to Lucas, my stomach churning. You forged my signature. He at least had the decency to look ashamed. Mom said it was the only way. We needed the money fast. Before what? I demanded. Before the audit, Sophie cut in. The business is being investigated for fraud. They needed clean money to cover their tracks. My phone buzzed, Danielle texting. Got the keys. Meet at Rosewood Manor in 30 minutes. I have to go, I said, pushing past Lucas. Claire, wait, Sophie called after me. The meeting tonight, it's at 8. Room 412. They don't know I know, but I heard Mom on the phone. Whatever they're planning, it's happening soon. Lucas grabbed her arm. You're going to regret this. She pulled away. No, I'm done being part of this mess. Grandma wouldn't have wanted this. I stared at my siblings. Lucas, angry and defensive. Sophie finally telling the truth. Thanks for telling me, I said. But why now? She smiled sadly. Because Eleanor once told me, doing the right thing late is better than never doing it at all. As I got into my car, I texted Danielle, change of plans. We need to crash a meeting tonight. Bring your phone. Record everything. The pieces were finally falling into place. Whatever secrets Rosewood Manor held, I had a feeling we were going to find them all tonight. Hours, Lucas spat, his voice filled with resentment. She spent hours whispering secrets to you in that stupid glass parlor while the rest of us watched from outside. A car door slammed nearby. Sophie approached, her heels clicking against the asphalt. They're meeting tonight, she said, not meeting my eyes. At the Crestwood Hotel, about the house. Lucas spun around. Sophie, shut up. She crossed her arms. No, I'm done lying. Mom and Dad are planning something, Claire. Something big. I narrowed my eyes. Why are you telling me this? She hesitated, then exhaled sharply. Because I found something in Mom's office, documents about Eleanor's estate, and they don't match what was in the will. Lucas stepped toward her, his face darkening. You had no right to go through those papers. And you had no right to forge our sister's signature, Sophie shot back. I turned to Lucas, my stomach twisting. You forged my signature? He at least had the decency to look ashamed. Mom said it was the only way. We needed the money fast before what? I pressed. Before the audit, Sophie cut in. The business is being investigated for fraud. They needed clean money to cover their tracks. My phone buzzed. Danielle texting. Got the keys. Meet at Rosewood Manor in 30 minutes. I have to go, I said, pushing past Lucas. Claire, wait. Sophie called after me. The meeting tonight, it's at 8, room 412. They don't know I know, but I heard Mom on the phone. Whatever they're planning, it's happening soon. Lucas grabbed her arm. You're going to regret this. She pulled away. No, I'm done being part of this mess. Grandma wouldn't have wanted this. I looked between them. Lucas, angry and defensive. Sophie finally telling the truth. Thanks for telling me, I said. But why now? She gave a sad smile. Because Eleanor once told me, Doing the right thing late is better than never doing it at all. As I got into my car, I texted Danielle, "Change of plans. We need to crash a meeting tonight. Bring your phone. Record everything." The pieces were finally falling into place. Whatever secrets Rosewood Manor held, I had a feeling we were going to find them all tonight. Room 412 had a connecting door to 414, where Danielle and I pressed our ears against the thin hotel walls. My mother's voice came through clearly. "The audit team arrives Monday," she was saying. "If we don't have that money transferred by then—" "We know," my father Charles interrupted, "but Claire's lawyer is causing problems." "Then fix it, Charles," my mother snapped. "We didn't spend 30 years building this business just to watch it crumble because your mother decided to play favorites from beyond the grave." I started recording on my phone. "What about the paintings?" A new voice. Thomas Bennett. "You promised there were valuable artworks hidden in the house." "There are," my mother said sharply. "Eleanor, that conniving woman, had a collection. Insurance documents valued them at over $2 million. My hands shook. Eleanor's art collection. She'd always told me they were just prints. "And you're sure they're in the house?" Thomas asked. "In the walls," my father admitted. "Behind the wooden panels in the glass parlor. That's why we need to move fast." I turned to Danielle, who was already scribbling notes. "Insurance fraud," she mouthed. Back in the room, my mother continued, her voice cold. "The audit team will find everything. The fake invoices, the offshore accounts. Eleanor knew. That's why she changed her will at the last minute. That's why she left everything to Claire." My father sighed. "She was protecting the art, making sure we couldn't get to it." "Well, she failed," my mother said, her voice hard. "Once we get back into that house—" A loud crack interrupted her. I tensed. A new voice. "Sophie." "Mom, Dad, what's going on?" I heard shuffling. "Sophie," my mother's voice sharpened. "What are you doing here?" "I followed you." Her voice was trembling. I heard everything." "Honey, this doesn't concern you." "Doesn't concern me?" Sophie's voice cracked. "You're stealing from Eleanor's estate, from Claire." "We're protecting our family's legacy," my mother insisted, "by committing fraud." Silence. "By forging signatures and hiding stolen artwork." My father's voice softened. "Your mother and I had no choice. The business was failing." "Because you were embezzling money," Sophie accused. "Grandma figured it out, didn't she? That's why she changed her will." The room fell silent. Then finally, my father spoke. "How long have you known?" "Long enough." Sophie's voice wavered. "I found the real accounts, the ones you hid from the auditors. Eleanor didn't just leave clues for Claire, she left them for all of us, to see who would do the right thing." "She didn't just leave clues for me," Sophie said, her voice trembling. "She left them for all of us, to see who would do the right thing." Danielle touched my arm, nodding toward the door. "We have enough recorded." But I couldn't move, transfixed by my sister's words. "I'm calling the police," Sophie said firmly. "Like hell you are," Victoria snarled. A loud crash. Sophie screamed, and suddenly, doing the right thing became a lot more urgent than family secrets. I burst through the connecting door just as my mother wrenched Sophie's phone from her hands and smashed it against the wall. "Get your hands off her," I shouted. Everything froze. My father, Charles, stood by the window, pale and shaking. Thomas Bennett backed toward the door, and my mother still had Sophie's arm in a death grip. She turned to me, eerily calm. "Ah, the prodigal daughter joins us." Danielle stepped in behind me, her phone held high, recording everything. "I suggest you let her go, Victoria, unless you'd like assault charges added to fraud." My mother's grip tightened for a second. Then, with an icy glare, she released Sophie, who scrambled to my side. "You recorded everything, didn't you?" she asked. "Every word." I took a steady breath. "The fraud, the embezzlement, the art theft, all of it." "You don't understand," my father pleaded. "The business was failing. We needed—" To steal from your own mother? I cut him off. To forge documents and hide evidence? Thomas cleared his throat. I think it's time I made a full statement about my involvement. My mother whirled on him. You wouldn't dare. He met her gaze coldly. Actually, he said, pulling out his own phone, I've been recording too. Ever since you first approached me about rushing the sale. Something felt wrong, and now I know why. My mother's perfect facade was cracking. You're all making a terrible mistake. Sophie touched my arm. Claire, the paintings, they're not just valuable. She swallowed hard. They're stolen. A heavy silence filled the room. What? I breathed. That's what Grandma discovered, Sophie said. Dad has been using the business to launder money through stolen art for years. She found out when she realized one of her own paintings had been replaced with a forgery. I turned to my father. Is that true? He sank into a chair, his head in his hands. Eleanor confronted me 6 months ago, said she had proof. That's when she changed her will. That's when she added the clause about your consent. She knew we'd try to sell the house, my mother said bitterly. She knew we needed to get to those paintings before the audit. Danielle was already on her phone. Yes, Detective Harper. Room 412 at the Crestwood Hotel. We have multiple confessions recorded. My mother lunged for her, but I stepped between them. It's over, Mom. Her eyes burned into mine. Eleanor gave me that house for a reason, I said. To protect her legacy. From people like you. She laughed, wild, unhinged. People like me. I built this family while she judged us from her moral high ground. No, Sophie said quietly. You destroyed this family. Grandma was trying to save us. In the distance, police sirens wailed. My father buried his face in his hands. Thomas moved to block the door. I turned back to my mother. The paintings. Are they still in the house? Her silence was my answer. I looked at Danielle. We need to get there first. She nodded. I'll call for a warrant. As the sirens grew closer, I watched my parents' empire crumble. Built on lies. Destroyed by truth. Eleanor would have been proud. The police found the paintings exactly where my father said they'd be, hidden behind the wooden panels in the glass parlor. 13 masterpieces, each worth a fortune, each tied to a different art theft over the past decade. I stood beside Detective Harper, watching as the stolen artwork was carefully removed. Your father's business was just a front, she explained. High-end furniture imports made the perfect cover for smuggling stolen art. A familiar voice spoke from behind me. Lucas. I turned as he stepped forward, watching as officers carried out the last painting. What have you done, Claire? He asked, his voice hollow. I met his gaze. Me? I'm not the one who turned Grandma's house into a storage facility for stolen art. His throat tightened. They're going to prison. Sophie stepped up beside me. They made their choice, Lucas, just like you did when you forged Claire's signature. Detective Harper's ears perked up. Is that an admission of forgery? Lucas' face crumpled. Mom said no one would get hurt, he whispered. I sighed, my voice soft. But people did get hurt. Grandma spent her last months realizing her own son was a criminal. Her art collection was replaced with fakes. The business she helped build was a lie. A voice called out from inside the house. Miss Carter! One of the evidence technicians stepped forward, holding something. A metal box. My heart jumped. It was the perfect size for Eleanor's key. That key belongs to me, Lucas protested as the police examined the metal box. That's private property. Danielle simply smiled. Actually, according to the will, everything in this house belongs to Claire. My hands trembled as I slid the key into the lock. It fit perfectly. Inside the box lay a leather-bound journal and a USB drive. Your grandmother contacted me 6 months ago, Danielle explained. She'd been gathering evidence. She knew they would try to sell the house once she was gone. Why didn't she go to the police? Sophie asked. I swallowed hard, because she wanted to give them a chance to come clean. I could hear Eleanor's voice in my head, her endless lessons on love, patience, and wisdom. She had been protecting us until the very end. Detective Harper flipped through the journal, scanning the pages. "This is enough to put them away for a long time," she said. "Art theft, money laundering, fraud." Lucas slumped against the wall, looking pale. "I didn't know about any of this. I swear." "No," Sophie said, shaking her head. "You just went along with it, like we all did, until now." I flipped to the final page of the journal, and my grandmother's familiar handwriting blurred as tears filled my eyes. "My dearest Claire, if you're reading this, you've done what I couldn't. Expose the truth while protecting what matters most. Our family's real legacy isn't money or art. It's the courage to stand up for what's right. I'm so proud of you, my girl." The morning sun streamed through Eleanor's freshly cleaned windows as I sat in the glass parlor, sipping tea from her favorite cup. Across from me, Sophie sat quietly, staring at the light dancing through the stained glass. In the next room, Lucas helped Thomas carry in the last of the restored artwork. "The insurance company confirmed it," Danielle said from Eleanor's antique desk, flipping through a stack of documents. "Once they verify the painting's authenticity, the recovery reward alone will be substantial." I shook my head. "I don't care about the money. I just want the art back where it belongs." Thomas hung the final piece, a small impressionist garden scene, in its original spot. He stepped back, admiring it. "Your grandmother had incredible taste. These aren't just valuable, Claire. They're beautiful." Sophie ran her hand gently along the frame. "She always said art should be lived with, not locked away." A heavy silence settled between us. Lucas cleared his throat. "Claire, about everything." I exhaled, setting my teacup down. "You're sorry." He nodded. "But sorry doesn't fix this." "No," he agreed. "But maybe this will." He pulled out a stack of papers and placed them on the table. "I'm testifying against Dad's business partners. All of them." Sophie gasped. "Lucas, those people are dangerous." "So is living with guilt," he murmured. "Grandma taught us better than this." Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Thomas answered it and returned with Detective Harper. "Good news," she announced. "Your parents took the plea deal. They'll serve time. But their cooperation means we can take down the entire smuggling network." Sophie hesitated. "And the business?" Detective Harper smiled. "Being dissolved. But the legitimate assets will be returned to the estate." I walked to the willow garden wall, running my fingers over the loose brick where I had found Eleanor's letter. She knew this would happen. All of it. She knew we'd make the right choice. Eventually. "Even if it took some of us longer than others," Sophie said, joining me. Nearby, Lucas picked up one of Eleanor's delicate teacups, turning it over in his hands. "Remember how she used to say," he murmured, "every broken thing has a story?" I smiled. "And every story has a lesson. Samaos." As the sun set over Rosewood Manor, casting amber light through the glass parlor, I glanced around at my siblings. We were broken, but we were healing. "The house is officially yours now," Danielle said, gathering her things. "No more legal hurdles." Thomas crossed his arms. "What will you do with it?" I looked around, the restored paintings on the walls, the stained glass catching the last rays of light, the garden beyond, my family, shattered but piecing itself back together. "Exactly what Grandma wanted," I said. "Make it a home again, a real one this time." Sophie squeezed my hand. Lucas nodded in understanding. As I curled up in Eleanor's favorite chair, I flipped open her journal one last time. A small folded note slipped out from the final pages. "Remember, darling, revenge is sweet, but redemption is sweeter. Some families break to become stronger. Love always, Eleanor." I closed the journal, a smile tugging at my lips. She was right, as always. This house wasn't just my inheritance. It was my chance to rebuild something better, something real, from the ruins of what we had lost. And this time, we would do it right.